Newcastle Fire District number 1,
He's not on.
7:03. Thursday,
Murphy's
February
attempted
11th.
to run.
Go ahead.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Move things out of the way.
Ed, will you lead us, please?
This was interesting. I didn't know
That here?
Ed, you're muted.
like any of
It's
these.
there.
This-
Ed, lead us in the pledge allegiance to the flag,
Okay,
please.
okay.
Come on,
I
Ed.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United
States
States of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence.
Moment of silence. All right, attendance.
Everyone seems to be present.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner Murphy.
Statement of regular public meeting, that's the end. Chief's report.
Here.
Everybody has a copy of the chief's report, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so under new
Review it earlier.
business, as most of you know already, we had a second fire in the same structure on Memorial Drive. That combined with the fire on King Street. We have an open case, actually with Newcastle Police who are investigating the two fires in the same building as well as the other fire on King Street. And it's an open investigation. And they're continuing to sift through some of that information. At this point, as of today, everybody in the fire department that has requested a vaccination has gotten one. So most people still have round 2 to go, but a number of us have already completed round 2. So that's taken place as we continue over the next couple of weeks. Some of us have had worse side effects than others. So hopefully we'll all be done with it shortly. Snow removal. The first storm, the 24-inch storm, we had significant problems with snow removal. The 3 chiefs found issue with it, as well as the majority of the members that were here. We were plowed out at 10 a.m. in the morning and then not again until 1 a.m. the next morning, early in the morning, with 2 feet of snow in the parking lot. Right, wrong, or indifferent, there's no reason for excuses or anything else other than the fact that we need to be done with that. At every 2 inches, you should be being cleared out. What was that, Chris?
No, that was my question. I thought it was a 2 or 3 inch push.
Right, we had people stuck in the back parking lot. They were trying to bring food in and stuff like that. The ramps weren't cleared, and we have a significant problem with 146 that it only has 1 inch of clearance to get back into the bay without snow. And we had 2 feet of snow on the front ramp. So that's problematic, and we just need to make sure that our snow removal people are coming often. And if not, then we have to find some other way, because at the end of the day, I don't care. It's not about personalities or anything else. It's about doing the job, and we require, a much higher rate of attention than everybody else does. So that's got to get fixed going forward, because that was really a problem. So
I know he was there twice before the third time at 1 whatever.
I saw him at 10 o'clock, and when I left here at midnight, it hadn't been touched since 10 o'clock in the morning. There was 2 feet of snow in the back parking lot, and 2 of our members got stuck, and we had to pull them out. So
This is a contractor?
it's a contractor.
No, but do we know who?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
landscaper.
He doesn't do a bad job. When he comes, he does a great job. I think he's very good at it. He's got to come every couple inches. And I'm not saying the whole parking lot's got to get done, but the ramps have to get touched, and there's got to be a pathway for people to get in and out. I'm not looking for, hey, come spend 45 minutes doing the parking lot, but we should be able to do that. So
Yeah.
let's just fix it.
I'll talk to him.
It's not a bad thing. It's just, hey, we require more attention than the average bear. Old business, two things that I have not heard any information from the board on is whether or not we've reported to New York State, required by law, on our cancer reporting form that was due on December 31st. So I need to get some confirmation, because that will affect coverage and a whole bunch of other things if we didn't. So I'd like to get confirmation that you guys filed for that. And it is now, let's call it the middle of February, and I have not yet received the LoSAP census for my review to make sure that the people that are on the census, we can make whatever corrections, additions, or deletions. I believe it's due at the end of March, no later than the end of March. And for the past 2 years, we've been significantly delinquent. 1 year, we were off by a whole year that we didn't get our stuff in, and the people who are collecting were delayed their checks. And then I think the following year, we were off by 8 months. So somebody should have gotten from Guyon the census, and that needs to get to me ASAP. Yes, Chris?
Yeah, I had received an authorization form that required a number of signatures from Diane Ripley, which we were a little delayed because of the snow. I've sent it in to her, and she's going to send me that information promptly. So I will get it to you as soon as possible.
Okay, cool. Nothing on membership. You have the expenses there. We had a number of drill standbys as well as the Fire Memorial Drive. Couple of dues that we had to take care of, and then we did CPR training last Sunday. So that totals $2,048.59. January alarms, we had 36, so that's kind of up. That's at the higher end for us, with a number of fires, 6 fires, so almost 16%.
Wow.
And our false alarms are relatively in the same ballpark. Not much is changed there.
So they were still down. They were still down. I mean, last month they were down from the previous month, so they're still hovering below 50%.
Right now, this month, it was exactly at 50%.
Brian, will you take a motion?
Have
And
a
then just
motion,
one last
please?
thing, physicals and fit tests, the first one of the year, because we agreed to do 2 to get onto an October schedule. So the first physical and fit test will take place on March 21st.
All right, can I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we reimburse the chief for the expenses that he's incurred on the report.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? So carry.
If I could, the cancer reporting from New York State, does anyone know about that and has that under their radar?
That was Eric, and I have no idea what transpired with it.
When did that go? Yeah, I mean, does anybody know when that went into effect? I don't recall that.
That went into effect a year ago, December. So
Okay.
this should have been our second year of reporting.
I wasn't aware of that. I'm sorry.
So I provided Eric with the form. I gave him all the information of the firefighters, the interior firefighters that are covered, that have been in for at least 5 years. Gave them all their FDI or their NY numbers, which is how the state identifies each firefighter. He was given that. Whether he filed it and whether there was a confirmation that it was received, I do not know.
Do you have that handy?
I would probably have to dig it out.
Excuse me, Sandra. Please put that on the immediate things to do list. And Keith, I'll circle back with you as well so I can get up to speed on that so I can track it. Thank you.
Okay.
And Chief, just so I understand, does that affect insurance in any way?
Yeah, so you guys are required by law to carry a additional cancer policy on each of the members that are covered under the volunteer firefighter cancer benefit law. You could take out whatever amount that you want. I believe the coverage is only $25,000, which probably gets you your first visit to the doctor, but it's better than nothing. But in order for you to make a valid claim against that policy, as well as to get the state involved as part of the process, you have to have filed with the state. And if you don't, then the ability for a firefighter that's stricken with a fire-related cancer, their ability to get funds related to that are kind of limited. And now you got to chase paperwork.
And is this something I can find online easily, or is this something you can send to me? Because if it comes under insurance and it comes under coverage, I'm responsible for it.
Right. So there's a portion of it that the district is responsible for, and there's a portion that the state's responsible for. I'll see if I can't find you the link. They do have a web page that's designed to the cancer. I'll see if I can't find that now.
Well, no, if there's a web page, I can probably find that.
Yeah, I could find it quicker though.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Treasurer's report.
So you have received my check register to review, and a decision has to be made if we would like to add 2,500 to the town of Newcastle for the escrow account. And if so, I can add that to our list. And also I wanted to add a check that I had written to Matt Buchanan for $720. So the check register would be for $30,624.47 if everyone agrees with the 2,500 escrow amount.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with it too.
But I was unclear as to the purpose of the escrow account.
It's for the
Guys, I
plan.
gotta take a little break. I gotta go on a fire call.
Oh,
Hi, Russell.
I'll let Ed answer. Okay.
yeah, you know, it's because every time the submission to the planning board, the time runs out, we have to go back to the planning board. And of course, you know, the attorney has to review it. That's pretty much what it is.
Okay, fair enough. Cheaper than starting over.
Yeah, let me tell you.
I have a motion
A motion to
to add the
make
25
those.
and the
Yeah,
750.
yep.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Okay, I also made an appointment Monday morning to meet with New York State on the FEMA submission that Eric had started for the COVID supplies. I think we want to pursue, and I will get as much information as I can on that and report back. I have the backup because I submitted the invoices to him, so I think I'm the likely person to move forward with that, if everyone's okay with that.
I have no problem with it.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We
Anything
received
else, Treasurer?
$1,500, a New York State check from the Department of Environmental. Tony, you recognize that revenue?
It's 2,500?
1,500.
Oh, 1,500. No, I don't know what it's for.
Okay, I'll check with the chief, but it was 2020 revenue. So anyway, that went into the bank, and that was probably the last transaction for our 220 year.
Okay.
And
No, I don't know what it would be for. Because we received everything else, correct?
yes. All right, I can easily find out because you can log on and check that. But you know how they reference a check with 19 digits of numbers.
Okay.
That could have been something that Chief Maitland applied for.
Correct, yeah.
Oh, maybe a grant? Could be a grant?
Yes, that could be, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it could be a grant
That's what
money.
the last one was for, 1,500.
Okay.
I do remember him mentioning something to that effect.
You might be right.
Okay, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions for the treasurer?
Nope.
Secretary's report.
I have spoken with Mike Wilbur of Emergency Vehicle Response. This is regarding a matter that was on our agenda last month. The need to update 2 specific reviews, the apparatus, fleet and equipment, fire station, staffing and water supply, And he has informed me that in order for him to proceed and create a proposal for us, he needs information. And more specifically, he needs to know everything that's been done, including acquired, since he was last here. So I have sent an email to Chief Maitland letting him know that I need an update from him so that I can forward this to Mr. Wilbur. And certainly if there are any board members that can fill in anything else, that would make it easier for him to create a more accurate proposal for us. He did want everyone to know that he doesn't see this happening until later on in the year, based on how many fire districts are online and ahead of us, and also because of his own COVID concerns. So the sooner I get the information and the sooner he gets it, the sooner we get in line. In addition, on February 9th, I received a FOIL from Nancy Zessi. I'm working with the attorney for the district, Michael Ligori, regarding our response, because there are prior requests from Ms. Zessi also. And lastly, I did make several changes to our website, including the public notice active button and a scrolling calendar, just to help members of the public access the meetings more readily. That's the entire report.
I would suggest to you that whatever you get from Chief Maitland with respect to updates, you run it past Commissioner Oliveri.
Most definitely. Thank you.
I think there was only 2 changes to the apparatus. We sold engine 145 and we bought the new rescue. That's
Tony, I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Thank you very much.
About in any way.
If I could just add, I want to thank not only Sandra, but also Robin. Over the past few weeks, they've been working extra hard in terms of getting caught up, closing out 2020 and getting off to a fantastic start in 2021. With respect to the FOIL request from Nancy Zesdi, seemingly, from what I understand, this issue has been going on for as long as going back to 2018. And I just want to say, and this is, I think it's important to note that Nancy Zesdi not only deserves an answer, but she's entitled to an answer under the law. So I'm going to make sure that I do my best to work with our attorney and Sandra to get all those answers that were permitted to release to Nancy. And I hope that in the future, when we get any correspondence, including FOILs, that we act on them immediately. Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah. Anything else, Sandra?
Sorry, Brian, there's nothing else. Thank you.
Nothing else? Okay, any questions for the secretary?
No.
Okay, approval of minutes of regular meeting, January 14th, 21.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes. And Sandra, thank you for getting the draft out so quickly, as required by law, of course, 10 days, but thanks very much. That's great.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Yep, me too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No carries. Committee reports. Commissioner Hoyt,
Nothing to report right now.
nothing on purchasing?
Nothing that I'm aware of. But you know, I'm around most of the day, so if there's anything, I'm available to discuss it.
All right, and Russell did the physicals. Commissioner Frank.
Okay, so I've been talking with Lynn Weinig about Oak Lane, and the contractor from Oak Lane needs permission to go onto the property with proper insurance. So she's going to make sure that we're named as an additional insured. And then she had some concern about precautions. Should we have fencing around the area that's being worked upon?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Ed. I hate to interrupt, but I just don't have any frame of reference, or maybe I don't need to. But what's the Oak Lane issue?
Oh, they hooked up to the sewer on our property without permission. This goes back some time. That's good.
Is this the property just to the north of 495 King Street?
It would be, yes. It's right across the street. It's the nursery or, you know,
It's on Memorial
Childcare
Drive,
facility.
Chris.
yeah.
Oh, no, okay, now I got it. I'm fine.
They did some drainage work on the property, and they were supposed to do some corrections and some things, which they didn't do. So,
Yeah, no, and I understand it, and I understand there's a dispute over payment on that, and
Yeah,
I spoke to Joe Montefiore, and I've seen some of the correspondence between the attorneys on that. So thank you, Ed. I apologize for interrupting.
that's fine. So anyway, Lynn's working on it. Right now, of course, nothing can be done because of the snow. But, you know, that's where we stand right now.
But our position is we're bound by the easement, we're bound by the contract, and we're bound by our taxpayers, right?
That's right.
Okay.
She did say though, Ed, right, today that they would pay.
Yes,
Yeah.
they said that, yes. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, they have to pay, so
Well, you
There's-
know, volunteering rather than taking them to court or whatever. But yeah, it's.
that
it's-
would be
it's-
nice if they voluntarily paid, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I assume, I mean, I know I'm new here, but I assume we want to be good neighbors all around.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. We want to be good neighbors. I've said that right from the start.
Okay.
But you know, we can't spend our money for such things like that. I think, you know, well, you're an attorney, something, you know, we can't do that.
Especially since it's not our money and we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, so.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right.
Ed, Lynn's gonna make sure that whatever has to be done, the contractor's gonna take care of it.
That is correct.
Whatever he has to do, he's gonna do.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. House, anything else, Ed? Sorry.
No, that's all I have for this evening.
Okay. House, I'll talk to the plow guy, the landscaper, talk to him about the plowing. As far as anything else goes, everything's fine.
I gotta just say one thing, because I plow snow too. We all have to have some rest. Even if it's 24 inches, we have to shut the truck off once in a while. It's gonna catch on fire.
Ooh.
We put 20 hours. I talked to that other person too. And when you put 20 hours behind a truck, you need some sleep. So for Russell to just say that it was 24 inches and he came twice before, I can vouch that there was not 24 inches there.
Hmm.
So,
Tony, I think that's fair, and I think you're right. I've had friends and I've worked with people who have slept in the back of their truck for 2 hours in a
Yeah.
parking lot, waiting for the 2 inches to build up and 3 inches of commercial property. But it sort of begs the question, should we have a backup company or should we have a larger company with more personnel that's able to do it? I mean, Russell's point is valid.
yeah,
And maybe we have contracted with somebody that cannot provide the service that an emergency services requires. And maybe that means,
Well,
We-
sorry, Chris, but no matter who you get,
when it's,
they're not gonna, they're gonna do the best to keep it by the contract. But when it gets big like that, you're not gonna have anybody that's gonna,
no,
they're all gonna fall behind. And the
Yeah.
other problem was, if they get plowed by a town truck,
yeah, they push
The
snow
town-
there.
but does the town still push?
they pushed and they parked their trucks in the back and went inside. All right, and the
I
guy
know
came
they
back to
used
plow
to do
and the
it.
trucks were there. But forget all that. I will talk to him. I will tell him that he's got to do a little better job. Just do the best he can. That's all.
Got to come more often.
Well, the problem is what I'm hearing from the chief, and I'm not saying it's true, I'm not vouching for it. What I'm hearing from the chief is their best is not good enough. So do we need a larger operation that has more manpower, more trucks, more plows, more whatever? Maybe not, or I mean, you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
The-
that was the case. I think it was maybe 6 inches the most that was back there. I would give it 8 inches or 7, but you know, he's saying it's 24. If he was there twice before, there's no way it could be 24 inches back there.
Yeah, I'm less worried about the 8, 10, whatever it is inches in the back. I'm more worried about the 1 inch clearance in the front, because
Yeah,
that's the piece of apparatus that has to get on the road. I mean-
Brian will talk to him. He'll come around more. I
Alright.
know the guy. He's a
And
hardworking guy.
I had a complaint with him too, and I talked to him about that, and he came back and he took care of it. I mean,
You know what the trouble is here in the front? Everybody pushes snow from other directions, and it's not even our snow. Once that happens, you know, the poor guy, he has to push it somewhere.
Yeah, they
And-
push it across. They push it across the street. I get it.
Yeah.
It's the other guy's problem. Yeah, but
I did
you
it
know,
for years. I know what it is here.
And we haven't. I know you have, Tony, but we haven't. I mean, we haven't had a storm like this since 2016.
I know.
So, but I think for the safety of the firefighters and the community, we need to be okay. We're going to overpay in off years, but I think we need to be prepared for the 2016, 2021 storm. I just do.
No, I understand. Brian, just talk to him. He'll,
I have, and I
Yeah.
will. I'll talk to him again.
it's not easy.
I'm not saying
All right.
it is. I'm not saying it is, and maybe we should pay more for it, but it needs to be done.
I don't
And-
think it's the money. It's just trying to get back. And if vehicles are in his way, it's impossible. You know, they did it to me. You remember that, Chris?
Yeah, which is why you stopped doing
Yep.
it.
I did it with it.
If they got cars in that back lot and he comes to plow, well, he's not gonna be able to plow between the cars. I mean, and they won't park on one side of the lot.
No, we've been there, done that.
And we're gonna keep going through that for the rest of our lives.
For Pete's sake.
With the parking.
So is Tony up now?
Yeah, if you'd let him.
All right, well,
Okay.
Your
Fine.
turn.
don't pause for me. I have to step out for a second, but
Okay. Finances, we covered. Trucks, engine 144, Ruscon replaced the air valve on the ladder rack. Tower ladder 27, they also installed a new wheel chuck bracket on the driver's side, and the ground light was replaced with a new one. Last night I was called that they went to a fire call, and the tower ladder, all the idiot lights on the dashboard lit up. So I asked them to check the antifreeze, and nobody got back. So I called Ruscon this morning, and they came today, and it was low on antifreeze. So I asked them, you know, to check the antifreeze. Nobody got back to me. So I called, they came, they added antifreeze, and they checked for leaks. And they see a small leak by the bottom of the radiator, but it only leaks when it's under, when the engine is running on a fire situation. And that's when it leaks a little bit. But we got to keep an eye on it. If it gets worse, we have to replace the radiator, or they're going to repair it. So that's the scope of the tower ladder. The new utility should be delivered sometime in March. I will try to call them again and see what up. They're waiting for, I guess, parts for it on especially the body.
Just on that, Tony, on that, I had submitted a budget transfer to the board for the purchase of that utility vehicle, because the purchase was authorized in 2020. So we're using 2020 budget for
Okay.
that.
All
Our
right.
general fund budget, not any of our reserves.
Okay,
And you should have that budget transfer to approve tonight also for 57,000.
okay.
as a
Very
board,
good.
okay?
I thank you. Do we have to vote on it?
You should, yes, because I'd like to give it to the audit team.
Is it a
Okay,
vote or a resolution? If we're moving it from line item to line item.
Yeah, it's just a resolution that you authorize the transfer of funds.
okay. You want to vote on it now?
Yeah,
Well,
Okay.
no, I think it would be, what's the number, Robin?
57,
57,000.
It is hereby resolved. I make a motion that we pass the following. It is hereby resolved that we transfer $57,000 between line items in the existing budget for the purchase of the utility vehicle.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
aye.
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 Opposed? So carried.
Quick
Communi-
question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the leak that may be related to the, I'm sorry, the leak that may be related to the radiator.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't the radiator a relatively inexpensive fix? Shouldn't we just do that before it gets bad?
Well, we added antifreeze maybe 3 months ago. So there's an eye on top of the radiator. Once it goes below that eye, all the idiot lights go on. So we just have to top it off. You know,
Yeah, but it's a closed system, and I mean, it seems to me to
Yeah,
be a cheap fix to just replace, relatively cheap fix to replace the radiator.
but it's only because of that fire when it was working hard. Maybe that's when it was leaking the most, a little bit, and that's why it used some. But overall, if it gets worse, then we have to do something. But right now, he did a pressure test on it, and it wasn't leaking.
So
But
you want to
he's-
just give it some time to keep an eye on it?
Yep, that's what he said, and he's going to talk to Russ and see if they can do something else with it. But it's not. We just have to look at it. Add a little bit of antifreeze when it needs it right now, but it went 3 months without adding anything,
Okay.
and that's why if I would have went down myself, but I didn't. I still been living in the truck for I don't know how many days now.
A week and a half, man.
Yeah, I know. But that's okay.
Anything
Russ came. I'm dealing with it the best I can. So, communication, Russell, you awake?
I'm here.
Okay. Did Dwight, do anything with that, scanner antenna?
Not yet.
Okay, because of the weather, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But
That's it.
I did speak to Metrocom. They've already started the installs on the new trunk system.
Okay,
New
good.
trunk system will not go live until probably the end of the year, but they're doing the installs. We got a couple of things that you and I need to talk about procedurally. And we should probably think about buying the pagers. At the end of the year, they were successful in keeping the old frequencies for the trunk system instead of giving them back to the FCC. And they did get a UHF frequency for paging, which will change the dynamic of our paging somewhat significantly. So we should start to buy the pagers now so that when they go onto the system, there's not a rush for them and a backlog.
Would we have to order them through Metrocom?
We do it through Metrocom. We put the money away. We got plenty of money that we put aside knowing that we're going to have to do this.
Okay. Just let me know or see when we have to order them.
Okay.
Okay?
Tony,
Chris?
Thank you, Russ.
yeah, Tony,
Tony?
Yes,
Tony, can I ask a question?
certainly.
Are the pagers duplicative of the text system, or are they a belt and suspenders sort of thing, or what are they?
The pagers are the main form of dispatch. Everything else is secondary, and you're not supposed to rely on anything beyond the paging system.
Especially on the phone.
There is zero redundancies in any of the electronic forms outside of paging.
Well,
I
I just because I know that the siren's coming up.
Yep, we'll talk about that when it comes up, and I'll give you information as it relates to that.
But the pagers are the primary alert system.
They're the only alert system in which we are allowed to operate on as being the primary means of notification.
And when we say we're allowed to work on, by whom?
What do you mean?
Well, I understood you to say the pagers are the only alert system that we can have as a primary system. And I'm wondering, allowed by whom?
Well, first of all, we could go out and spend $10 million and put our own system in and build towers all over the fire district, and then we could be outside of Westchester County. Somers did it, and Somers spent in addition excess of $10 million to put their own system in place, and they are still using 60 control because there is no backup to the system that they put in place, if that makes sense. So
It does. It does. So 60 control tones us out through the pagers as a primary system, through text message as a secondary system, and through our siren as a third system.
No, well, so kind of. Our primary is basically the pager system, and our backup is the horn. And then anything ancillary is nice to have, but not reliable. And we can get into it in the discussion later as to the reasons for that.
Just while we're here, is that because the third system, which is ancillary, I mean, that's operated by private companies.
Correct.
We have no control over its maintenance. We have no control over its viability or efficacy, that sort of thing.
Correct. So, for example, the other day they had a problem with the AT&T carrier, and we had a call, and I got the page on the phone 4 days after the call.
Okay.
Okay, and that's AT&T, and 60 Control doesn't get to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, we're at dispatch here," and our text didn't go out. AT&T says, "Have a nice day." They can't control it, and that's the reason why it's not to be relied on. Is it's not their system, and they don't have a redundancy to it. So let's go to the paging thing, right? Make this number up. I don't know what the exact number is, but say that there's 18 radio towers in Westchester County to dispatch from. Okay, they can dispatch from all 18 at once. They usually don't do that because they don't want to eat up bandwidth in New Rochelle when they're paging out North Salem. But if the main tower that North Salem is down, there's 5 or 6 other towers that they can switch to get that page out and so forth. So they have an ability to have multiple redundancies built into their system. And while it may not be perfect, it's pretty good. None of those redundancies exist in any of the ancillary media that's out there.
And 60 Control can adapt and adjust to those towers.
Correct.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I know we're going to circle back, but yeah, I just want to point it out.
If I could, I'd like to ask Russell a communications question also. So the Verizon wireless bill, which is the tough books, increased by the $47 this month. Is something going to drop off, or is that?
Yeah, something's going to drop off. So we replaced my tablet in my Chief's car, and it's still not up to where it needs to be. And until it's there, we're going to shut. We haven't shut off the old one yet because they're still looking at the settings on the old one, and they need to be able to remote in. So once they square that away, we will deactivate one of the numbers.
Thank you.
I have a question for Russ, Chief Russ. On 2064, can somebody take the snow off of it and start it up once in a while?
Yeah, what we're going to do is because we moved the forcible entry door.
Yes.
I'm going to back utility 31 all the way to the wall in Center Street. I'm going to put 2064 in there.
Okay.
So not only will it be out of the weather, I can plug it in every other day, or well, I can't really plug it in, but I can put the battery charger on it. So that's the plan.
Okay. I thank you very much.
All right. Anything else? Insurance, Chris.
Yeah, no, like I said, I had to get Chairman Hoy to sign my authorization, and I believe Ed did as well. I sent it in to Diane Ripley. I believe she sent me the LoSAP survey. I just didn't have time to flip through it, although frankly, flipping through it for me doesn't make much sense because Chief Maitland has all the data that's responsible. but I'll circle to that and we'll get to him either this weekend or on Monday.
Anything else?
Nothing of import except for this additional coverage that I'm hearing about, but I hadn't heard about it before, so I don't know anything about it. For the cancer insurance I'm talking
Well,
about.
You haven't been to the firehouse. Eric did drop stuff off, so I don't know if there's anything in there.
Well, he left documents, some of his files for me. Frankly, when I was looking at them, that was not front of mind for me. But I'll stop by the commissioner's office or Sandra's office, and take a look through that box and see if I can't puzzle it out.
All right. Anything else?
The background checks are also an open item through the insurance.
Yeah. I saw an email exchange on that, Robin. And why is that an open item?
In order to increase the surety that we were going from the $1 million additional, they wanted to know that we all had background checks. And
Is it a
we don't.
requirement? Is it
The
mandated?
carrier was requiring it, yes.
That's a conversation I'm going to have privately with you, Robin.
Okay, got it.
So it's not a requirement. It's not mandated by law. This is an insurance requirement.
That's what Ann had said to us.
I'm not so sure that it's strictly insurance, though.
If we can get an answer on that,
Yep.
I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I sent everyone an email out on that issue earlier today, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I saw the email, Sandra, but here's the question in my mind. Whether I don't, none of us need a background check. I'm sorry, none of the commissioners need a background check to sit where we sit.
Right, it was for them to do the increase that we requested, that they wanted to know.
Was an additional $1 million bond per commissioner?
Yes.
Anything else? Chris?
No, not for me.
All right. Town compliance and policy review. Mr. Hoyt, Mr. Weddle.
Chair, you want to go first? You want me to?
Yeah, sure. So Sandra's done a fantastic job presenting and laying out all the policies for Chris and I to review. I spent a bit of time during this week reviewing policies, but I have nothing significant to report on that, other than that Chris and I will get this task done, and then we're going to create that policy procedure book that will be available to everyone. And I do believe, Sandra, we're going to get all those policies and procedures up online, correct?
That would be the goal. Yep. Should be online.
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
All right, of the 15 policies that I was able to review, that I believe we have, I noticed that the rules and regulations were last updated in May of 2017. I've had a conversation with Chief Maitland, so I don't have any problem with those updates as he's representing them to be. With respect to the vehicle accident policy, the date of adoption is not listed on the policy. I don't know how hard or easy it would be to find that, but I think each policy should have the date of adoption or the date of effectiveness printed on the policy so we can know whether it's a current or an old policy. The same with the picture policy, also undated. And with respect to the procurement policy, it hasn't been updated since July of 2015. And I believe there have been changes. And I'm just thinking about the January meeting where I think the board had adjusted the manner in which purchasing orders was going to be affected. And so other than the other administrative tasks, I think that needs to be addressed. Now, I didn't compare what the board discussed in January with what the actual policy says, but I just think we ought to be consistent in what we're doing. The Code of Ethics, Emergency Vehicle Response, the FAST, mandatory mask, record retention, turnout gear, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Unless the chief has identified any problems with those policies, and I include with that certainly infection control, social media, photo policy, which seemed to me to be as solid as they were when they were adopted. Unless the chief has any issues with any of those, I don't think we have to revisit them.
You there, Russell?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't necessarily have an issue with the policies that exist. I would tell you that comparatively, we're woefully inadequate with the number of policies and what they address. So for me, my bigger issue is adding to the list of things to make sure that things are clearly defined and not open for somebody to just make up in what they feel it is. You know, for example, we should have a discipline policy. It should be in writing. It should be out there. Everybody should know what it is. This is how it works. These are the ways that you can aggrieve said, you know, discipline, whatever it is. We need to have some of those. So we need to start looking into that. And a lot of that stuff comes with the attorney that handles the district business. They can recommend some of the things that you know should be there as must-haves, identify the things that we'd like to have, and some of the things that would be just awesome pie in the sky. But we should be looking to do that, and that's not a short-term project.
No, I understand that, and you're correct. But we do have Section 4 of the Rules and Regulation that deals with discipline of officers and members.
It doesn't go deep enough.
Okay, so that means
So we've had instances that you're all very well aware of over the past that we did not have anything in our rules and regulations to help us deal with those situations.
Do we have to reconvene a Rules and Regulations Committee now?
No, we need to come up with a policy, and there's a difference between rules and regulations and policies. There's a clear differentiation, but let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's figure out what we need to have, and then as we start to develop those, we can figure out who the interested parties are that should be involved.
I'm just saying that the Rules and Regulations has that as a component.
So I will tell you that the Somers Volunteer Fire Department has 400 and something policies. Okay? Volunteer Fire Department got 400 policies. We got 15. We got 15. I'm just telling you. So, and I'm not saying we need 400 policies. Okay? But 15 policies to cover what we do on a day in and day out basis, I can tell you from my 39 years in the fire department, doesn't cut it. We're wide open for problems that we don't have anything to guide us by.
Yeah, but we also don't want the New York City Police Department patrol guide.
No, we don't need that either.
Excuse me, Sandra. Let's do a deep dive on this early next week.
Okay, got a calendar.
Thank you.
Yep. While we're on this topic, is it possible that we also include Chief Maitland so that some of the suggestions that he's aware of, we can then use
Absolutely.
as a nice springboard moving forward?
Always.
I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
No, it seems to me to be essential if the chief staff sees a gap or a black hole in our rules and regulations, that should be brought to our attention. And I don't see how to do that without the chief staff and the chief.
But just to throw something out there that's as simple as the day is long is, do we have a policy on how we handle an emergency call that comes into the firehouse? Have we outlined the steps that the person who answers the phone is supposed to do? I would maintain that if you took 5 different people in the department, you would get 5 different ways that was handled. And potentially, if it's handled incorrectly, somebody could die, somebody could be injured, it could cause a whole host of problems. There should be a policy. And
I would
there's a list of those.
I would suggest you refer them to tell them to call 911, send it to 60 Control, have them tone it out.
Well, maybe it's that we need to make that and transfer that call. So, but there needs to be a policy on that. It's that simple.
You and I have had this conversation.
Well, if I can
We don't have
interrupt,
to debate it right here.
if I can just interrupt, as being an ex-chief, I can go along with Russell because there are everybody does things different. Like if an emergency comes in at the firehouse, it's correct. You're correct. Transfer it to 911, go to 60 control with it. But if you don't have a policy or anything, you could have those 5 people, each of them have their own opinion of what to do. You could have the one guy go blow the horn, set off the pagers, 60 controls in the dark. It is a way to, if you have it down, what you should do, then it's a done deal.
No, I get it, but okay, so we're both right. But it's, you can policy people to death is all I'm saying. All right, but yeah, we can talk about it.
Anything else about the policies?
Not for
Town
me.
liaison?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Old business. Email from Eric.
Yeah, let me address that. So everyone got a copy of it. We have a resident who is communicating with us right now, and we are considering his comments. And we will likely hear from him later, and I will read a statement before the public meeting, the public comment session. What's the next thing on the list there, Ryan?
Next is discuss possibilities of board purchasing zone equipment for recording meetings.
No,
Yeah,
defer it.
Yeah,
I would agree. I think that was premature. We have fantastic service right now. I don't see why we should be switching that.
I
Is it-
agree with that.
Yeah, let's not spend that money. Pamela's doing a fantastic job along with her colleagues, and I would like to keep it that way myself.
Okay. Status of work by emergency response, which we already got that report.
Yep.
Northern Fire Protection Area.
Yeah, if I could just talk about that for a moment. So it was last year, December, we met with Mount Kisco, and the chief brought some valid reasons why we shouldn't be rushing into canceling that agreement with Mount Kisco. I agreed. Several of us were not fully informed as to all of the conversations and correspondence that had gone back and forth with respect to that issue. So now, excuse me. So now we're at a point where the board needs to have a discussion regarding this issue. We don't have to have it here tonight, but I thought it was important to keep it on the agenda. I did ask the chief earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken, how long he might need to prepare for transfer should or resuming that area of responsibility. And he did indicate, if I think he said up to 6 months or 6 months at a minimum. I'm not sure. The chief can comment on that. But we do need to keep this on the agenda. It needs to be resolved.
I would suggest that it's a longer conversation than that. The Chappaqua Fire Department has always maintained the position that they will do their best with what they have, but their best is not necessarily the optimum protection for those residents of our fire district. And so I think it is a deeper question of, not can we do it, but should we do it? And I think there are differences of opinion on that. And yeah, I just think if you want to look at a 6-month target, that's great. But I think that needs to be, the subject of a work session. I mean, 2 of us are firefighters, 3 of us are not. And I think we should listen to the people with the expertise in this area before we begin to talk about balancing the cost benefit analysis. Not that, a human life is measured by a cost, by a financial cost. Russell?
I would just like to point out that, in order for us to actually go in and evaluate that area and make determinations and so forth is fairly labor intensive. It would require flow testing, and it would require measuring driveways and a whole host of other things. I'd rather not do that if I don't have to. I mean, that's a considerable amount of time and a lot of work. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse and sit there and say, yes, I want to go do 6 months worth of work. And then you guys say, oh, well, we decided to keep it as is, because that's time that we never get back. And we're stretched as it is. So if you guys make a decision to go one way or the other way, I would just propose to you that you let us know when that decision's made, and then we would ask you for 6 months before you actually did anything. I really am not looking to go out and do that. I got multiple classes that I'm teaching at the same time. I've got other chiefs and firefighters that are involved in classes. That time would be much better spent training than it is going over into another area and doing it for something that you may not do. So if push comes to shove and that's what you agree on, we'll go do the work. But I'd rather not do it and then say, oh, by the way, we didn't really need to do that.
But presumably, Mount Kisco has already done the work, so maybe that's a collaborative conversation that we could have.
Yeah, I don't accept anybody else's work. There's nothing to say that their work is correct. That would be foolish of me to take somebody else's work and say, yes, that work was done 25 years ago and I trust that. I would confirm it for myself. But
you trust them to provide the protection now.
Yeah, but I don't have any liability in it. Okay, if we take it over, it becomes my liability. Okay, and chief, well, why didn't you know this, or why didn't you do this, or whatever? And I'm not basing my response or my firefighter's safety or the resident safety based on somebody else's work. I'm just not. That's not prudent.
Excuse me, Sandra. For action items, if you would please, can you schedule a working session with the chiefs, and we'll try to make it as efficient and effective as we can, so we can discuss this. But there's other issues specifically regarding the budgets and some of the issues with Mount Kisco, them servicing debt and costs being transferred to those 140 some odd properties up there that we need to discuss. So I think if we could, Chief, if you would agree, we should sit down maybe and just start peeling this onion back. So I would agree with you, Chief. I wouldn't want you to make a plan for us then to somehow make a decision on. Well, we need to know where we're going with this, and everyone needs to be involved, every member, and it's got to be totally transparent this time around. Thank you, sir.
Anything else for the Northern District Park?
Just we need to keep it on the agenda.
Yep.
Thank you.
Fire district maps.
Oh, yes. If anybody has any recommended vendors for this project, please send it to me. Over next week, I'm going to put together a very short request for proposal. We'll be going out to 2 or 3 firms that I would think to start looking at what they may propose.
Why?
Excuse me?
I asked why.
Why?
Why are we redrawing the district map?
Well, we discussed this at last month's meeting. It needs to be updated, and we're not redrawing the map.
Nice ringtone.
Chris, if I remember, it is basically just to update the map, because the map one of the maps we have dates back to, I believe, 59 or 61. And then we got another one think recently, but I don't know if that was accurate or not.
Right, and we're looking for a CAM drawing with GPS coordinates, so it's precise.
No, we're looking at having a properly developed map using the latest GIS information and layering of all the various things that we may want to see, including roads, important government facilities, fire hydrants, delineating the different fire protection zones and areas.
Well, we have a fire hydrant map, but do we have any idea what this is going to, well, you know, you're going to put it on an RFP.
No, we don't.
So we have
Well,
no idea.
I mean, I have an idea what the project may cost, but I mean, I wouldn't be prepared to discuss it here and now. But we need to, if we want to move, we did have a motion on it. It was approved to move forward, at least to the request for proposal and solicitation stage.
Well, I'm not in a position to undo that then, so, okay.
Nothing further on that then. If anyone has any ideas with respect to vendors, please just send them to me.
Has anybody called Westchester County GIS? I'm under the
They would be-
impression that they can pull the map for you.
Well,
No
they would
cost.
be, well, they would be involved in the project.
I'm under the impression that they can pull the map for you without any other required party. I don't understand why we're not looking at that.
We would be. I mean, that's part of the process.
So why are we paying somebody else when the county can do it for free?
Let's check it out.
Somebody needs to pick up the phone and call Westchester County GIS and say, can you give me an accurate fire district map for the Newcastle Fire District #1? And
So-
find out before you go out to somebody else that they can do that.
So the way this would work is request for proposal would go out to reputable firms who specialize in this, and then as a fire district, the Board of Fire Commissioners would specifically identify exactly what they want on their map. And then from there, these firms already have maps. They go to Westchester, they go to New York State, wherever they need to layer these maps.
Do me a favor.
You're still lost as to why you need to pay somebody for that.
Excuse me. Sandra, could you give Chief Maitland a telephone call and see if he's got a number and see what they can provide? We do have hydrant maps. We have a book in every truck that they may be able to insert, or maybe we have to hire someone to insert them. But let's see what they can provide. Maybe
Okay.
it'll satisfy our needs. Maybe it will not.
Great, I'll follow up.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And on that, Russell,
Yeah.
that hydrant book, when was it updated last?
First of all, we made that hydrant book.
I know.
Al
That's what I'm
Al
saying.
Seawald made that hydrant book. We have actually gone out and GIS located with the town of Newcastle, all the hydrants in our fire district. As well as we now have Mount Kisco's, Pleasantville's, everybody's, and they're all embedded into our mapping software that's in the vehicle chief cars and the rescue, I believe, until we get everything else up with tablets. So
Okay.
we have a very much updated location of hydrants down to within 3 feet, as opposed to putting a red dot on a town map.
It was
And-
just, the only reason I'm
and-
asking is because you got a lot of new streets.
Yeah, I call Westchester County up and say, hey, I need a map roll of, our protection areas. And I get it a week later and it's got everything, every street, every new street that has
Yeah.
been dedicated that they have.
And Chief, that hydrant system that you have in the chief's car, does that have the most recent 5-year, flow reports?
Now with that, we need to get that from the town, but if we get that information from the town, our software can handle that information and there is an upload feature. We just don't have that information from the town.
And when's the last time you got a downstream flow report from the town?
Of the hydrants,
Yeah,
probably a few years ago.
okay.
Like, for example, there's a new hydrant now in front of 91 Bedford Road. So that's not currently in there. So I don't usually get to ask them for new information for one hydrant. we wait until there's, something significant and then we get that upload.
Thank you, Chief. Hi, Quincy.
So Chief, back to answering your question, it's the responsibility of the board to cause and maintain the map. It had been brought up several months ago that perhaps this needed to be done, and I totally agree, it needs to be done. And with GIS technology, we could look at developing a tool that could be easily maintained for the future. But right now, all we have are really historic maps that were created years
I don't have
ago.
I don't have any problem with it. I just see no reason to spend money until you find out that you can't get what you want for free. That's all. If that information is available to you at no cost, why would you engage a outside company who you have to pay money to?
That's fair.
That's the only question I have.
No problem.
Okay.
Well, let's see what they give us. We'll see if we need more information.
Sounds
So
good.
again, if anyone has any other vendors, if you would, please get that to me, and we'll certainly look at Westchester County, an office that I'm very, very familiar with.
All right. Status of audit?
Yeah, so I forwarded an email, I think, and I had asked the auditors last week how they were doing. They've gotten all the work that we need to upload to them, and they're preparing preliminary financial statements. We'll probably hear a week and a half, maybe get to see a preliminary, and then it takes them a while to go through their cycle to issue a final.
Very good.
With respect to that, a lot of people played part in pulling that information together. Thank you very much for everyone who worked on that.
Welcome.
And Oak Lane update, we already did. New business?
None.
Nobody?
I don't think so.
Correspondence? Just the letter from Eric in reference to the fire siren, Mr. Hildenbrand, and Nancy's foil.
I believe we covered both of those.
Okay.
Well, no, we covered Nancy. We did not cover Mr. Hildebrand.
Okay, so if I may then, everyone got a copy of his
Right.
most recent communication?
Yes.
Is he present?
Pamela?
Yes, he's an attendee and he has his hand raised,
Why don't we let him in?
So, no,
right?
excuse me, before we do that, Brian,
Yes.
I just want to read the public meeting notice.
Okay.
This is a public meeting of the Board of Fire Commissioners of Newcastle Fire District Number 1. We will now have the public comment period of the meeting. Please state your name and address. Please state as simply as possible what you want the board to consider. This is not a question and answer session. This is part of the public meeting designed to solicit comments from the public. Please do not expect the board, excuse me, to answer any questions, as this time has been reserved for the public to inform the Board of Fire Commissioners about their opinions. Because at this meeting, we conduct essential business of the Newcastle Fire District Number 1, the Fire Board of Commissioners has placed a 3-minute rule. Please attempt to abide by this rule. Anyone choosing to speak should address his or her comments to the Board of Fire Commissioners. Thank you.
All right.
Let me allow them to talk. Mr.
Thank
Hildebrand, you can speak now.
Hi, thank you to the board for allowing me to speak today. And I don't know if did you want me to discuss my second letter that I responded? I don't know if you were going to read it into the minutes, or if you want me to kind of walk through the thought process there and then.
Well, Mr. Hildebrand, this is Chris Weddle speaking. I read one piece of correspondence which had attached to it 2 articles with competing ideas with respect to the fire siren, which I believe is your issue. And if there was a second piece of correspondence, I did not see it. And so if you could just, give me a synopsis, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And there, just for reference, just to mention, there were 3 articles listed there. I don't think I cut off when you received it. This was a response to this was the second response. I think the first email I sent request was to form like try to form like some sort of organization with members of the fire commission and also members of the community to try to look at different alternatives for siren devices or things to alert without utilizing the siren.
Yeah, that I saw then.
That was the first one. And then I think Chief Maitland, you did a very good job of addressing a lot of the points from the fire department's standpoint as far as that letter. And I responded back with the second one, which is I think the one Mr. Whittle Commissioner Whittle that you're referring to, which raised the 2 main points that Chief Maitland mentioned, which was, as a backup alert system for the pager system, and then also for proximity, like awareness for people around the fire department is the in essence, the 2 major like tenets of having the siren. And in the correspondence I came back with, I addressed some of the thought process behind the situational awareness, and that, by the time firefighters arrive to the building, those that were in cars that were in the vicinity have long left, and that's the major roads. So I didn't think it would be such an issue for kids playing in the roads, for example, for that sort of thing. And if, fire trucks have sirens, et cetera, and it's probably like a 5-minute time before individuals arrive and suit up and get out the door. And so that was that issue. And then the other point was I proposed maybe utilizing the siren as a backup to the pager and to the response system for, I am responding, if that's the one that I think is currently being utilized. And that I think that, and this is part of the question I had was, is there a capability for firefighters to respond that they're on the way back to the fire department? And that was one question I had. And if that's, sorry, go ahead.
No, please finish.
Oh, if that capability exists and that there's a registration of firefighters that are responding, I was wondering if then the siren could be used as a backup, meaning like if a certain number of firefighters do not respond, that they're on the way to the firehouse, that the siren would run or, would automatically run 45 seconds to a minute after the initial call came in, if there were no responses. So that would be a true backup mechanism. And, perhaps also if there's a loss of power, it could be turned on, automatically. That was another idea I had, that maybe that would improve its redundancy.
If I can, Mr. Hildebrand, if I could just tell you what my understanding is. My understanding is that the siren is used in its first instance for the first call. If there are not an adequate number of members that respond, the siren is activated a second time, generally by 60 control, to second call people out and, just to let them know we have a working structure fire, we're short on person power, and, come. Historically, we had in town 2 sirens. There was one not only at the main fire station at Bedford Road, but one at the fire station at Center Street. Those ran every day at 12 o'clock, and they covered a broader area. And what struck me about your correspondence was that since some people farther away may not know or may not have heard the siren, may not be may not be aware that there's an emergency situation. My first thought was, my goodness, we ought to reactivate the second siren down at Center Street, which would, reach the other side of town. The problem I see in bringing this before the Board of Fire Commissioners, and this is my personal opinion, of course, it's not the board's opinion, is that this is not really a policy or a public relations issue. It's a firematic issue. And in my mind, it deals with the ability of the fire department to effectively perform its job. And for that, we rely on our chief staff, and the input from the department. I have absolutely no objection whatsoever in forming a community fire district board liaison committee to study this issue. But it has been studied before. And I understand that things are difficult now because we're not getting in our cars and going to the office. We're not going to school. We're home. And I understand this. It's distracting and annoying. To that end, the fire department made a decision, I think, with, after discussion with the board, to turn that siren off, from 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning. And, with the understanding that during those times, most firefighters would be home and they would have their pagers and they would have their cell phones and they would have this technology that was available to them. But during the day, that's not always necessarily the case. And in your correspondence, you referenced, I have 3 teenagers myself. Their phones are never far from them. But for me, my phone is often far from me. Yeah. But if we look at this call to action tool as a safety issue, I'm not sure the board is in a position to make that decision. Does that make sense to you, sir?
It does. I mean, I see that Chief is raising his hand, but the question I have is that there's many towns that do forego the siren for capabilities for using pagers, and I also think that behaviors change with advances and new protocols, and if firefighters knew that they would need to be more cognizant of the pager and their cell phones for responding to fires, they would wear them during the day as much as they prepare to have them ready at nighttime, for those hours when the siren is not running. And I question out of the volunteer force, how many volunteers during the are within a distance where they hear that siren sound. I would think that there's a certain number that leave the town of Chappaqua to work for their jobs, and so that there's I think counterpoints to some of that. I understand fire safety is number one. We get that. We understand that. We don't want when we hear that it's a redundancy issue, we're just trying to figure out if there's technologies out there. I mean, it was promising to hear that there's a new pager system coming out that might improve things as well later on this year. But we want to make sure it's everybody's safe and that people can respond. We understand the volunteer need, but for those of us who live around the building, it is quite disturbing and jarring to have that noise go off.
Excuse me, Mr. Hildebrand, just 1 second.
I'm
Chief,
sorry.
just give me Chief, 1 second, please. Pamela, do we have anyone else raising their hand?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we're approaching 10 minutes on this issue already.
So
Harry, I'd like to make a comment if that's okay before you switch off.
No, excuse me. I'm sorry. Before you do, I would like to speak to Mr. Hildebrand. Mr. Hildebrand, you are correct. We live in a commuter society, and to some extent, I think that makes the point that while 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I was sitting in my office in downtown Manhattan, the siren would do very good for me. Very little for me. But for those daytime volunteers, of which we are frankly, light on, the siren is very important. I think, and just so you understand where I'm coming from, I lived on the corner of King Street and Pullion Drive, next to Lang's Little Store. I know that siren. I knew it well. And I found it disruptive. But on balance, I thought it was a good thing. And I'm being told by the professionals that that is important. Now, I understand you to mention that other towns have found themselves able to function without that physical sound. I take issue with the characterization of noise pollution, but I'm not going to argue the point because it seems like a pitch in the dirt. But some of the towns that are referenced in these articles that you forwarded to us involve, partly paid departments. They have hybrid departments. They have people that are on call. They have people that are in the firehouse. And so I'm not particularly persuaded, but then again, I don't think it's my decision. I think it's the decision of the firefighters and the chiefs that have to provide this service to the residents and the visitors that they are sworn to protect. And I'm sorry, Russell, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Chief Maitland, would you please weigh in? I don't know.
Well, sure. So, Mr. Hildebrand, just so you know, and anybody else who's listening, I'm not married to the siren. Okay, I'm married to the service that it provides and brings people to the firehouse. Couple of things in terms of what you were talking about. First and foremost, the proximity stuff. And you're saying about the cars aren't even in the area. One of the areas that I'm particularly troubled about is downtown Chappaqua, where at Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, when the entire Bell School lets out and kids are crossing the street and so forth, number one, and most importantly, it lets the police know that not only are fire trucks will be coming, but people are going to be responding in their cars. And it gives them the ability to have a tighter rein on what's going on in downtown Chappaqua, as well as a host of other things throughout the community, that there are some people in the area that are paying attention to what's going on, or they were in Walgreens, or they were at the little store, or whatever. I think that some of the towns that got rid of their siren, and I like to use Somers. Somers spent $10 million of their own district money to build out a radio system because the current county radio paging system was not adequate and enough people within their district were not able to receive the page that was being provided. $10 million is a pretty steep amount of money to build out a radio system when the technology changes on a fairly regular basis. I don't know where you live, but I know that where I live and where a lot of my volunteers live, some of them don't have pager service. Right by Commissioner Murphy down on Castle Road, we have a member that lives down in like a little bit of a valley. His pager never goes off there. There's cell towers in town, depending on where you live. I'm right here in the firehouse. I have absolutely no cell service in the firehouse. Okay, zero zilch. And that's throughout the entire community. There are pockets of places where our members live where they either don't have pager service, they don't have cellular service, they don't have both. And then I go back to recent history and say, we've had parts of our fire district that have been without power for up to 14 days. And people do not necessarily have generators. So there is no charging of pager systems. There is no charging of cell phones. The current cell phone tower on Hardscrabble Hill, which supplies a good portion of the cell service across multiple carriers in the town of Newcastle, does not have a generator backup. Okay, so when it's down for days. And I think some of the suggestions you made about automation and stuff sound good, but from a technical standpoint, they're a lot more difficult to do. So my proposition is, hey, I'd love to get rid of the siren. When I can get some data that says that changes were made and we went over a specified period of time and we didn't have any glitches and the paging system, the new paging system worked and we did the tests and everybody seems to get it and cell service got better and so forth, I would be the first one to say, hey, I want to listen to the community. And if I don't have to sacrifice safety to do something, then I'm all for it. Okay. you guys all know that we look to do a referendum to do the addition on our firehouse. You know, if we were able to do that and put the bunk rooms in that we wanted to, I could keep a crew in the firehouse and I wouldn't have to worry about the horn going off because I would have a full crew in the firehouse. Okay. I could even go into the public education side of the equation and say, you know, 50% of the calls that we go on in this community are false alarms. Maybe the answer to the solution is not shutting off the siren, but it's actually doing a better job of public education so that people aren't inadvertently activating their fire alarm systems. So there are a host of ways to get to the point that I think that you want to get, but until there's such a point that we can be in a point where we say that turning that off and the other systems in place are reliable, as the fire chief and the person that's responsible for the community safety, and even more importantly, my members' safety, I'm not willing to do that. And then the last point I'm going to make is you know, you made a reference to, you know, waiting to see who you get, and then if you need more people to activate the horn. You know, I will tell you that I'm a New York State fire instructor, and we teach it every day. Fire doubles in size every 30 seconds. So if you want me to wait 2 or 3 minutes, think of how many times that fire doubled and how much more damage has been done and how many more people's lives have been put in danger. And that's the community. Now, instead of me getting to a scene rather quickly and being able to knock down a smaller fire, I had to wait 2 to 3 minutes to activate the siren to get the requisite number of people that I should have had from the beginning. And now you're putting my firefighters in danger. So I am very, very aware of the plight that you guys feel that you're in, being in close proximity to the firehouse. But I'm just going to tell you as fire chief, I'm not willing to put anybody's life at risk because it's a nuisance to some people.
And I know that we're over time. I don't know if you want to, you know, I have 1 or 2 more thoughts and maybe shift to the other person that's got their hands up. And if there's time at the end for me.
Well, I think the way to do this, Mr. Hildebrand, first of all, thank you very much for your interesting comments. The board will consider it, but I'm going to put it to the board. Shall we continue this conversation now, gentlemen, and permit Mr. Hildebrand to make a few more comments for consideration?
Yes.
Yes, I would agree. Go ahead, Mr. Hildebrand.
Okay, and so I mean, I'm definitely interested, and I will follow, you know, what transpires with the new pager system that's going to be installed to see if that improves things. I mean, I do think if we could figure out about the self-service pockets being disrupted, you would definitely have interested community members to try to improve Verizon or whatever system that, you know, T-Mobile or whatever system that it's dependent on. We would work to improve that situation in Chappaqua. I think we're definitely motivated for that. I think one of the points that Commissioner Weddle made was, you know, about the old siren in town. And the question I have is, you know, if that old siren in town was reactivated, could we lower the decibels on the one that's up here? I often think with these kind of situations, it's kind of not in my backyard type of situation. So if more of the town was cognizant of the fire alarms going off, maybe there would be more resources for, you know, putting bunk beds in and for doing things like improving communications. Because I think it really impacts just the blocks that are around the fire department here, but people on the other side, you know, of the town, they don't really, it's not really something that bothers them as much as it does with us. So the priorities are not there. And then 2 other quick suggestions to think about. Maybe I was surprised when I did this. I timed the fire alarm. It goes off and continues to go up and down and tone for over 30 seconds. Is there a way to maybe lower the time that the tone goes on so that it's, you know, maybe 10 seconds long? And question or 2, you know, and then, you know, that would be something I'd be interested in. And whether also, like, does the fire siren need to go off for every type of call that comes into the fire department? Are there certain ones like fire and health that it would go off, and maybe others that it doesn't need to go off? I don't know how that works out, but I just want to put that out there for Chief as well.
Yeah, that's a technical issue that the county does not currently have the ability to do that. So just so you know, and I'm going to leave it at that, but the county does not, in the middle of the night when the siren doesn't go off, it's not because the county isn't activating it. They have to activate it on every single call. We actually bought a piece of technology to actually block the signal in between the hours of 11 and 7 or whatever time it is, or 10 and 6 or whatever we did. But so the county doesn't have the ability, and they won't take on that responsibility. It's one way or no way. So we were just lucky to be able to find an inexpensive means to block that. But that technology doesn't exist, nor does their policy allow it.
Does the siren need to go, the other question was about the length of the siren tone.
You and I can have a conversation offline about that. I don't want to take up everybody else's time, but if you want to reach out to me, I'll get in contact with you and we can have a discussion.
I'll buy a coffee at Starbucks.
You got it.
All right. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Hildebrand.
Thank you, sir.
Pamela, who's up next, please? Pamela.
Lynn Lambert.
Hello,
please
Lynn.
Please unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hello, Lynn. How are you?
55 Ridgewood Terrace. Thank you all for your service, especially Chief Maitland. You're on the front lines. I just want to say, I totally understand why you guys don't want to answer questions in this format, but I have emailed questions a few times over the last half year, and I've never gotten any answers. So I don't know what the proper format really is. So I'm just asking that. I've submitted comments and questions and no responses. And Mr. Hoy, I know that you are new there, so it's certainly not you. And but it's just been a little confounding, like sort of like a catch-22. So I just want to.
Lynn, may I answer that first question for you?
Yes.
And I will, because that's a fair question. If you have specific questions, you may address them to the district secretary. We will attempt to answer your questions at some other time. However, tonight we needed to have a discussion with Mr. Hildebrand, but we will do that. If you have specific questions, we can answer them, but just contact the secretary so then the entire board can get together and answer those questions as one voice rather than 5 commissioners. And also we need to typically consult with the chief anyway. So it's just a more efficient way of getting a proper answer out there.
Yeah, no, I have always submitted them where I was told to submit them. So I don't think I've just, that they're just have been falling into a black hole just to report. And I don't know if somebody can go back and see them because I don't have copies of them. They're not email, they're into the portal more or less that the website tells us to do with our questions and comments. So anyway, moving on, the other thing I want to say is you have a little community engagement right now, and that's a good thing because there hasn't been nearly enough, and it's caused problems in the past, I think. And you mentioned that you were putting together a community outreach committee, and I would like to volunteer to be on that committee. I think I've been to more by 10 times of the fire commissioner meetings than any other civilian. I try to stay updated on things and I care. And so I would like to volunteer very much to be on that committee. And I hope that Mr. Hildebrand and some of our other neighbors will as well, because even though one issue might draw people in, there are other ways that we should be helping our fire department. And there are ways that we can help our fire department. And there are things we need to know in order to be good residents. So I just think that the communication that you suggested is a very good idea. And I hope that that moves forward quickly, not at a time when, oh, now we're gonna have a vote on the new expansion or some big thing. Let's get that group together, now as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Anybody else?
No one has their hand raised at this time.
Okay. Terry, you want to end it?
First of all, thank you very much, Brian. As you know, horrible failure here with technology tonight. Couldn't have done it without your help. I greatly appreciate it. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, unless there's anything else, of course.
Motion to adjourn.
Just one thing, the next regular meeting,
Oh, yes.
11th at 7 PM, be with Zoom.
So we have a motion on the table and it has been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian.
Yep, no problem.